Fair warning, this show contains strong language and adult themes from time to time. Sorry, Jerry can't help it.
Sick Boy Wolfgang Productions presents The Offering with Jerry Horror. A deep dive into the history of film and its filmmakers. Mostly horror, always genre.
It's always Halloween at the Haunted House of Hamburgers, Long Island's only Halloween-themed restaurant. At Haunted House of Hamburgers, they are obsessed with both Halloween and hamburgers, so why not have the best of both worlds every day? Salivate over their delicious hamburgers during Boo Brunch, along with their Witch's Brew and Crypt Keeper cocktails. Or take a stab at the undead desserts, such as I Scream Sundays, with your bobbing for apple pie. My favorites are the Afterlife alcoholic shakes. I'd go for the Pentagram Passion Fruit, or the Exorcism Espresso Martini Shake, or my go-to, the Loch Ness Monster Lobster Rolls. This place is fun as hell. They even encourage you to come dine in, dressed in costume. Your kids will love that. Or that could be one hell of a memorable first date. They're not going to forget that, right? Here's a little insider tip. For a far-out, trippy dining experience, ask your waiter for 3D glasses. It's pretty rad, let me tell you. Located at 330 Fulton Street in Farmingdale, New York, it's the restaurant that looks like a haunted house. You won't miss it, I promise. Make Haunted House of Hamburgers your year-round Halloween destination. Welcome to The Offering with me, your host, Jerry Horror. Each week we take a deep dive into the history of film and filmmakers. Mostly horror, always genre. Please take a moment to subscribe to our show wherever you find your favorite podcast to stay up to date on future episodes. Coming up, in order to keep costs down, several porn actresses were hired to play the victims in this movie. The movie was never given a rating by the MPAA. The filmmakers knew it would receive the dreaded X rating for the violence and gore deemed pornographic. Gene Siskel walked out of the movie saying to Roger Ebert that the film could not redeem itself after the ultraviolence that he had seen. Stay tuned, you're not going to want to miss this.
Modern fights, Jerry guides us through the nights. Horror's history in the lights, exploring endless chills and heights. George Romero, lost footage and hidden gems, director's visions, dark diadems behind the scenes. We're taken there, in sinful whispered secrets we share. Sam Raimi. The Offering with Jerry Horror, stories old and new. Jason Kruger, Bruce Campbell, genre twists that shake your core. Every episode, we craving more. Mostly horror, always genre.
Ladies and gentlemen, friends beyond the binary, it's me, your host, Jerry Horror, and welcome to The Offering. Folks, it's always good to have you back. I hope you've had a fantastic spooky season. We're thugging it out over here. We're getting ready for the big turkey. Ooh, I can't wait to dig into them greens, beans. Oh, and that's it because they cut SNAP benefits. Guess what, folks? There's no Thanksgiving for you. Hey, is your family on hard times? Make sure you're donating to your local food pantries. Go to the church, give them some food. Anytime you see a food fundraiser or food drive, don't forget to donate. There's some tough times going on. Obviously, we are in a recession. Your orange man will not say that. He will not tell you that we're in a recession, but in fact, we are. So remember, be kind to your neighbors. How y'all doing? Did you like the Halloween special? Was it cool? Did you watch it on YouTube? I hope you did because I need those views. We need to keep the algorithm strong. You know, kids, the algorithm's more important than it ever was these days. You know, we talk about the Instagram algorithm because that's kind of like my favorite platform. I get a lot of motion there, obviously. And the reality of the fact is that people always tell me, well, you know, the best time to hit the... And I'm like, dude, the algorithm doesn't exist as you think it does. Maybe it did like 5 years ago, but now it's all AI driven. And those machines, they don't give a fuck. It's Skynet running all these things. And they're just like, yeah, whatever. It's so random. But remember, if you want to get views, if you want to get that hot motion on any platform, kitties and titties always sell. Kitties, meow meow. Titties, ooh boy. All right, so we got a dope review. And listen, I've told you folks, if you write a review, I will read it, even if it's unflattering to me and the show. It doesn't matter. But in this case, it is a 5-star review. Title of the review, Jerry Goes Fullumis. The Halloween Ends video special was peak offering. Funny, fiery, and totally fed up in a Dr. Loomis kind of way. I listen to Dead Meat and We Hate Movies, but Jerry's show has its own vibe. It's more like swapping horror rants with a friend who actually knows every cursed story in the book. Rambly in spots, but that's part of the charm. This was written by Anita Scream. Thank you, Anita. We appreciate your patronage. We appreciate your listenership. That is totally cool. And thank you for the lovely, lovely review. I do get a bit rambly, but that's why you're here, because I am an unhinged wacko who just so happens to have a podcast. Not everybody needs a podcast in 2025, but bitch, you know that I do. So we need to get into it. There's been some really upsetting things that have come to my attention, and we need to talk about it. Major horror outlets are not going to talk about it because they're trying to protect the franchise. Should I just call people out? Let's call people out. Let's call out Screambox. Let's call out Bloody Disgusting. Let's call out Fangoria. It's okay, guys. Dread Central, because they have stake in the movie. Screambox, obviously, distributing it on their platform. So a lot of people aren't talking about Terrifier and what has transpired in the last few weeks, but I'm real and I don't care. I don't really give a fuck, because the thing is that a lot of those big horror consortiums have not shown me any love, so it is what it is. It's, sorry folks, I gotta talk about it. I'm a huge fan of the Terrifier series. In fact, the other night, me and the homeboy Jay, we went over to the AMC. They're doing the Thrills and Chills, Terrifier on the big screen. Had this fantastic intro with Damien Leone. He says, hey, listen, a lot of you haven't seen this on the big screen. And I thought that was really cool because I hadn't. There's a really nasty kill, obviously, in that film. It's the big kill in the movie with Catherine Corcoran. She gets killed in a really nasty way. It's the biggest kill in the movie. She gets sawed in half from her vagina down. Unfortunately, we have found out that Catherine is taking the producers of the film to court. She has alleged that she was not paid royalties, she was not fairly compensated for what she was promised, and she was pushed off, and it's unfortunate. Also, she said that she was really in terrible working conditions and felt like she was exploited. Unfortunately, this is a story that you'll hear from many young actresses. We shouldn't even have to open the door to the world of pornography because that is very commonplace within that industry. And it's in the same ballpark, unfortunately. So with that being said, I am a huge fan of the series, and I bought the t-shirt, I got the steelbook, I did all my part, but you need to pay this girl. I don't care what the accusations are. There is what we call equity. Everybody deserves equity. If you work on a project and you put your time and you put your love into it, you show your body, yes, you should be fairly compensated, especially for a fucking franchise that is now at Universal Horror Nights. My dad was so excited to meet Art the Clown. Dad met Art the Clown. It was fantastic. He bought a mug. And you know what? That money should go to Catherine because, hey, listen, we all need to get paid. At the end of the day, if you went to work and somebody said, hey, you're not getting paid this week for what you did, you'd be fucking mad as hell. Now imagine it's a franchise like Terrifier that's taken off like wildfire. And it's crazy and it's making all this money and it's everywhere. And guess what? You haven't seen a dime. So I can't in good faith celebrate my fandom because this shit is very disturbing. And I want to give a shout out to Steve Barton. Steve Barton's a producer. Worked at Dread Central. He's been everywhere. He's been the only dude who's got any huevos to talk about this shit. He straight up was like, yo, there's some stuff that's not so cool that's gone on with the producers of this film. And listen, I get it, man. It tripped me out when I was in the theater and the credits roll and it says this, this Indiegogo backers. So this wasn't funded by Universal Picture. This was funded by the good citizens who love horror and they believed in the project and they made that shit happen. So you know what? If you owe all those people money, well, you definitely owe Catherine some money. You know what I'm saying? Like, you can't just take money from people and then say, oh, we're not going to pay our talent. Listen, pay the girl. I hope the lawyers do their lawyering. I want this to work out. I need it to work out. And I'm hoping to God that the accusations against the production and the producers are not true. Because guess what, folks? We have to listen to every victim. We have to. Because that's what they deserve. At the end of the day, they are a human being. And fuck all this horror shit, fuck all the merchandise. If a human being comes to you and says, hey, something's not right, I was mistreated, listen to that person. Because even if it's been wildly overblown, there is a grain of truth in everything. So I don't want to think at night that, I bought this t-shirt, I'm wearing it, and, it stands for something that I didn't want to be a part of. Because I really do believe everybody deserves their fair shot at equity. It's very important. And I'm a champion of film. I'm an admirer of art. I am in no way trying to trivialize this matter, but I truly hope that this is resolved in a fair and equitable way. I'd like to believe that the horror community is a better place. The horror fans really come out and support people. It's a grassroots movement. And with that being said, you owe it to the fans to pay this woman. Please. So again, shout out to Steve Barton. No shout out to all of the various media outlets who have pretty much put a blackout on this story. And look, I understand that it is not the job of Bloody Disgusting to talk about accusations. Fucking Variety picked up the story. Deadline picked up the story. It's been running in all the trades. So guess what? Put on your big boy pants and just acknowledge it. I know you don't want to piss people off so that you don't get the cover story for Fangoria or whatever the hell it is you do. But at the end of the day, if y'all are in the industry and you know that something was rotten and you have prior knowledge of this, you're complicit to everything that happens and you have to live with that. So if there is a whistleblower, and not just Steve Barton, if something is rotten in Denver and someone needs to speak out about what is going on, because guess what, folks? This isn't just about one actress. Allegedly, what Steve Barton's putting out there is saying that they have dredged the waters and that this is just commonplace and this is how these producers get down. If that is the case, you are wrong. You are complicit in holding people down and not being a good partner to the people who made your movie. If that girl is willing to put her tatas on the big screen, give her some money. Because guess what, folks? Even if it was a strip club, you'd give her money. And again, that is not to downplay or trivialize this at all. It's just the truth. So, anybody want to talk about it? Steve Barton, you want to talk about it? Anybody from any of these media outlets you want to come talk to me? I'm easy to find. I'm right fucking here. And we'll talk about it. Because you know what? I could be wrong. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe Catherine's wrong. I don't know. But if you come, I'm going to give you a platform and I'm going to allow you to speak about what you know. Because at this point, I think a lot of people are being quiet. And guess what? When a victim speaks up, that is not the time to be quiet. So, sorry for that heavy-handed stuff, kids. It's just the way it is. On a happy note, both producer Pete and I saw The Black Phone 2. We think it's one of the best movies of the year. Definitely captures that early Elm Street vibe. All the kids in the movie do their thing. Fantastic acting. Ethan Hawke brings the grabber to new heights. He fucking Robert Englund's it. Shout out to Robert Englund, who just got the star on the Walk of Fame. Richly deserved horror icon. Ethan Hawke, man, he put his foot in this thing, and he really is a great horror villain. And guess what? He was the grabber for Halloween. He's loving this. He's celebrating this role, which is cool. They do take it to Franchise Town. There's a lot of powerful family emotions in this film, but they can easily now take, like you watch the first Black Phone and you're like, oh, it's a self-contained story. It ends. With the second movie, you're like, oh, wait, this guy probably killed a lot of people. If this little girl can speak to the dead and she can find the other victims, it becomes a quest. It becomes now we have to find the grabber's victims, and the grabber doesn't like that. There's some really cool supernatural, metaphysical stuff that starts to happen in this movie. And god damn it, is it good, man. They really did their thing. I can't really, you talk about something where, we just had the Terrifier series and all this drama. And now we've had The Black Phone 2, and it's such a success. This weekend, it was #1 at the box office for Halloween. It's coming to digital. Let these movies play in theaters. Let them play out. Let people go see them. You're leaving money on the table. Not everything has to go to digital. It's like I said to my brother, I'm like, oh, what was the greatest Netflix movie you've ever seen? You can't answer me because it's all like vaporware. It's just like you watch it and it disappears into the ether. So hopefully this new deal with Netflix and AMC really works. They're going to be putting Stranger Things on the big screen. It didn't go into effect soon enough to help Guillermo del Toro's Frankenstein, which I'm still waiting to see. Some theaters in the city are running it in 35 millimeter. Would love to go see it. One thing I will say is, hey, maybe it's not playing in your multiplex, but it played at the Cinema Arts Center in Huntington. Shout out to the Cinema Arts. We're always a big supporter of them. Support your local indie house or your local movie theaters that are owned mom and pop, especially anything that's independent. Go out there, support it, get your tickets. Go see GDT's Frankenstein. I heard it's fantastic. Really amped to see it. We got a lot of stuff. As the kids say, the horror fans will be eating good. A lot of stuff on the horizon. And, hopefully we get through all this drama. We can finish up strong for 2025 and, have some bigger things and brighter things to look forward to in 2026. Maybe even another season of The Offering. With that being said, today's episode is an all-timer. Get ready, buckle up, because after the break, it's about to go down. In 1975, New Yorkers were handed a chilling pamphlet titled Welcome to Fear City. It was created during a time of economic crisis, rising crime, and a deep uncertainty, warning people to stay cautious in a city on edge. The stark design and ominous tone captured a moment when New York's future felt fragile and uncertain. In 1980, New York City was a gritty, high-crime and decaying urban landscape, recovering from the fiscal crisis of the 1970s, but simultaneously fostering a vibrant underground culture. While the city was known for its rough and unpredictable nature, with graffiti-covered subways and widespread poverty, it was a unique hub for creativity, with hip-hop and punk music emerging, artists like Basquiat and Keith Haring on the streets, and new artistic movements blossoming. The era saw the beginning of gentrification and the rise of new businesses, though it also marked the beginning of displacement and cultural shifts. Life in 1980s New York was characterized by its rawness, lack of polish, and unpredictable energy, a stark contrast to the more curated and cleaner city of today. In May 9th of 1980, a little film called Friday the 13th was released in the United States and Canada. The film was a major box office success, though it received a largely unfavorable critical response for its graphic violence. Slashers would become the prominent horror flavor for the rest of the 1980s, preying upon the fears of urban decay and the threat of serial killers like the Zodiac and the Night Stalker. Slasher films played on the subconscious of American theatergoers. They were fun and sometimes forgettable popcorn thrills. However, in the back of everyone's mind was the same shared fear. Could this really happen? Could it happen to me? And the answer was yes. All of the cultural events and films of 1980 had perfectly set the stage for what was to come. And today's film encapsulates all of it from top to bottom. On December 26, 1980, William Lustig's Maniac was unleashed on unsuspecting theatergoers in New Fear City. Now, even cinemas in New York City weren't safe. There was a new hyper-violent predator on the silver screen. He wasn't a rubbery monster or a supernatural spook. He was an Italian-American landlord who lived with his mother. The scariest boogeyman that the imagination could conjure was living right next door. This is Maniac.
Maniac, you can lock your doors, but you can't lock the madman out of your mind. Maniac. It will tear the life out of you.
Will Bill Lustig, born February 1st, 1955 in the Bronx, New York, is an American film director and producer who has worked primarily in the horror film genre. He is the nephew of former middleweight boxing champion Jake LaMotta. So let's get into it, folks. My man, William Lustig, has worked on a lot of movies. And one movie that he worked on, he took over as the director kind of like slyly for the movie The Expert, which is a Jeff Speakman movie, who is the star of The Perfect Weapon. Sick plug. James Brolin is the villain in that movie. The Expert is streaming on Tubi and a bunch of others if you really want a cool... I know I'm throwing you kids off, but if you want a really cool martial arts movie... And guess who one of the villains in that movie is? Jim Varney. Ernest P. Worrell. Wow, that's weird, right? Let's get into it, though. My man Bill Lustig has made a lot of great movies. He made Relentless. If you've never seen that, that's the one with Judd Nelson. That's a really cool flick. He's a serial killer. Obviously, Maniac Cop, Maniac Cop 2, and Maniac Cop 3, Badge of Silence. Made Hit List. Made Vigilante with Robert Forrester, which is kind of one of those movies that was spawned from the Death Wish craze. I like Vigilante. Fred Williamson's in that movie. The problem with Vigilante is it kind of has a shitty ending. Of course, he gets revenge, but it was like unsatisfying to me in some way. But it's definitely a genre classic. Vigilante is a tough watch. There's a scene in Vigilante where the villain takes a shotgun to like an 8-year-old boy in a bathtub. And they pretty much show it. And it's rough. It's rough stuff. That movie was, they couldn't show it on. Even Cable was like, oh, we don't want to show Vigilante. Obviously, today we're talking about Maniac, 1980. You want to know what Bill Lustig's last two movies were before Maniac? The Violation of Claudia in 1977. And it's an X-rated picture, 1 hour, 1 minute. And the movie before Maniac, Hot Honey, 1978, 1 hour and 16 minutes, which was about a very young girl who was very hot. And it's exactly what you think it is, folks. Listen, a little fun fact about my buddy Bill Lustig. He claims to have seen Deliverance 70 times while working in a movie theater as an usher. That's really where the genesis of his career begins. He loved working at the movie house that he was working at over in the Bronx. And he said, man, I think I can do this. He then, I think the next year after working in the movie houses, he goes and he starts becoming a production assistant on a lot of these movies being shot in New York. He meets actor Joe Spinell while working as a production assistant on the 7-Ups, 1973. One last fun fact, because you love the fun facts. You do. You come here for the fun facts. His last name, Lustig, in German, means funny. And there's really nothing... So the whole thing about Lustig was he avidly watched films like in huge volume. He said, in some weeks he would watch about 40 to 60 films. We had all these theaters, especially the exploitation fair that was playing at the numerous 42nd Street grindhouses in Manhattan. He even then worked in various positions at a movie theater in Fort Lee, New Jersey. After graduating from high school, he took a few film classes at New York University. Lustig he's incredible. He begins his career in his late teens, working behind the scenes in minor production capacities on a handful of hardcore X-rated pornography pictures. He also worked as a production assistant, believe it or not. He was an assistant to one Charles Bronson on Death Wish, another notorious New York film, which at some point I'm sure we'll cover. He made his debut as a director and producer and editor on hardcore porn features. He usually directed under the pseudonym Billy Bag, which 2 G's on that. In 1980, Lustig would find himself at the center of controversy when he decided to make a grim, gory, and disturbing slasher, which was a sleaze splatter landmark, Maniac. And obviously, it features a legendary performance from my man Joe Spinell. But let's really get into it. Listen, Lustig has done everything. He is the backbone of the New York film scene. But it's more important that we get into the star of today's picture, the legendary Joe Spinell. Joe Spinell, who was born Joseph Spagnuolo, October 28, 1936. He was an American character actor who appeared in films in the 1970s and 1980s, as well as various stage productions on and off Broadway. Now, you probably know Spinell from his most famous supporting parts. He was in The Godfather, 1972. He was in The Godfather 2, 74. Rocky, Rocky 2, Taxi Driver, Sorcerer, and previous episode Cruisin', Sick Plug, 1980. You know I love Cruisin'. Oh, also, you know what's a really good movie? He's in Nighthawks. He's the police captain. He's like he's a perfect police captain. The flick with Billy D. Williams and Sylvester Stallone that was directed by Bruce Malmuth, who ended up directing Hard to Kill. Bruce Malmuth was a very interesting dude. His wife died really young, so he raised his son. He was a former Marine, and then he directed a shit ton of commercials in the 1970s, and then he makes his debut with Nighthawks. Definitely check out Nighthawks. Definitely check out Hard to Kill. Hard to Kill, very sleazy and exploitive in its own ways, you know? He performed with a troupe, well, this is Spinell. He performed with a troupe called Theater of the Forgotten, which specialized in staging unconventional performances, such as in prisons, and went through a number of jobs in New York. He was a taxi driver. He was also a clerk at both a post office and a liquor store. Because of his large, heavy-set frame and imposing looks, Spinell was often cast as criminals, thugs, or corrupt cops. Yeah, he did that quite a few times. Spinell was a big dude. He was 6 feet tall, and he usually vacillated between 275 pounds and 300 pounds, which is me. Me and Spinell are the same size. I'm 280 now. He's 6'4", we're both 6 foot. So if you need me to be a scumbag in a movie, I'm here for you guys. In 1971, he landed his first film role in a small part as a mafioso hitman. He was Willie Chichi, working for the Corleone crime family. Obviously, that's Francis Ford Coppola's classic The Godfather. Spinell was so liked by Coppola that he was hired as a day player for the film's 6-month shoot. He had a little tiny part. And then him and Coppola got along so well, he's like, I got to write more stuff for Spinell. So he did. And then he worked in an uncredited capacity. He was the only actor in the film who was paid, well, actually, the only actor in the film that was paid more than him was Marlon Brando. Because what ended up happening was, even after Spinell shot all his stuff for The Godfather, Coppola gave him jobs. He's like, oh, today you're Kraft, today you're this, just because they liked hanging out. And I thought that was, a really cool story. Believe it or not, too, Spinell was very close friends with Sylvester Stallone. Sylvester Stallone was struggling, obviously. The guy was sleeping on benches before he did Rocky. Things were rough. And a lot of times, Spinell would have him over for dinner. He would cook for him. He would give him money. He would give him food. And Stallone never forgot that. Stallone was like, listen, he's like, I'm going to take care of Spinell on the back end. Listen, I can go on and on. When you look at Joe Spinell's filmography, he's worked on so many fucking movies, we would be here for the next 3 years if I told you all the movies he did, even as bit parts. I would like to say that today's episode is a celebration of Joe Spinell. And Joe Spinell was very important to Italian Americans. And one thing that Joe Spinell was, he started working in something called the Theater of the Forgotten. He would go to prisons. He would go to institutions. He would go to group homes. And he would help people get into the film industry. He would get people, maybe not just as an actor, but as a grip, as a gaffer, anything he could do. And he was always trying to help other Italian Americans because, he's a Sicilian guy. He grew up in New York. One of his biggest success stories was Tony Sirico, who was a real-life gangster who went to prison, obviously, and he played most famously Paulie Walnuts on The Sopranos. Yeah, he gave Sirico his first shot. He said to Sirico, he saw Sirico in prison. And he said, man, he says, fuck this. You don't need to go back to running numbers. You can be an actor. He's like, you're great. You got natural charisma. And he did it. He became one of the biggest, right now to this day, we've still got memes with Paulie Walnuts. So, once you become a meme, you live forever. Believe it or not, Spinell is on the bus one day. He's on the bus in New York. He's in Queens. And he finds this guy who's driving a bus. And he's like, man, he's like, you're really funny. He goes, you should be an actor. And he says, I don't know if I should do that. I drive the bus. I get a pension. And he says, listen, you've got something special. You've got incredible talent. And he's like, really? You think so? And this guy was Danny Aiello. And he says, you got to do something with it. And Spinell got Aiello his first audition. This is insane because Spinell would take so many people that were marginalized, especially Italian Americans, and he would guide them towards a better way. For that, Spinell is a superhero in my book. Well, it's time, folks, we get into it. The making of Maniac. Now, we're going to talk about some really grim and upsetting things today, folks, but you just got to roll with it. If you're a listener of The Offering, you already know. If not, well, you're about to get initiated. Most of the women who worked on Maniac, especially the victims, they were all working in the adult industry at the time. Spinell would take advantage of this, and he would always try to get blowjobs or sexual favors on the side. So, it would be like, I'll take you out to dinner, just blow me. And then, this was the 1970s, this was we're going into 1980. This is the way it was, folks. It was a different time. Again, as I talk about pornography, especially in the 70s, it was not just a way to make a buck, as these lovely young ladies on OnlyFans, but it was a social statement. It was saying, I'm not a part of Big Brother. I'm not my mother and father. It is an act of rebellion. In fact, he was incredibly successful at getting blowjobs. People could not believe it. Some people would say that Joe looked like a troll, but the ladies overlooked that. He was so charming. This man had a date every night of the week, and it's insane. It's legendary. So it doesn't matter what you look like. It really doesn't. If you got game, you got game. You got to do what you got to do. In fact, his lover, Carolyn Monroe, would often hook up together with a lot of these girls due to her bisexuality. We're going to get into that, who Carolyn Monroe is. Obviously, she's in this movie. Beautiful actress. Should have had a better career. We'll get into that. William Lustig was working on a ton of pornography in between shooting Maniac. In fact, a lot of these adult films paid for the entire budget and then some of Maniac. They would go at night and they would shoot Maniac. And then Lustig would stay up all day and people would come to him and say, hey, I just did this adult film. Can you edit it? And he'd say, yeah. And then that money would go right into his hand and then go right into making Maniac, which is crazy. Most of the shots in this movie, all right, let's say almost everything in this movie is a stolen shot. Now you're going to say to me, Jerry, what's a stolen shot? Well, stealing a shot in a movie most commonly means that they were filming in a location without obtaining necessary permissions or permits. This is often done to save time, money, especially on low-budget productions. By quickly capturing footage in busy streets or public areas. It can also refer to filming a sequence without the permission of people who are depicted in the footage. I'm going to tell you probably shouldn't do this, but I'm not telling you shouldn't because, listen, you got to get your movie made, right? You don't have Francis Ford Coppola money. They're not paying you for Apocalypse Now. If you got to go steal shots, go steal shots. And then you know what? Go and tell the judge, say, well, Jerry Horror of The Offering said that I should go steal these shots. And you know what? I will come to court and I will defend you and I will explain what a pillar of the community you are and that you're making art, and I'll do my best to get you out of jail. But if I can't, it is what it is. So go steal those shots. Go break into those cars. I believe the kids call it bipping now. go bip into the cars, steal stuff, and then get your movie made. I didn't tell you that. Jerry Horror did. The production of Maniac was lawless. It was quick. It was down and dirty. Listen, folks, if I had to tell you about a movie that was just hovering on cocaine, manic energy, and the charisma of Joe Spinell, that is Maniac. These guys did whatever they had to do to get this movie made. And of course, at the end of the day, it is absolute respect. Now, of course, Maniac it's a slasher film. It's a slasher. We'll call it a slasher film. The absolute magic of Tom Savini in 1980 was, listen, blow your mind. You couldn't even encompass what this man was doing. Suffice to say, Tom Savini is one of my heroes, another Italian-American. You've probably heard about him a million times, but he's an absolute wizard and magician when it comes to makeup and special effects. He's a genius. Savini was more interested in tackling a real-life serial killer versus the more fantastical world of Friday the 13th. Now, after the success of Dawn of the Dead, George A. Romero's Dawn of the Dead, and Friday the 13th, Savini was getting calls left and right to do every horror movie in existence. He even had a really good story. He got pitched this movie. It was from fucking Paramount, of all places. The killer was using a food processor. He cut the plastic part off when he was taking the food processor and killing girls. And he was like, I'm not doing this. He's like, I don't care how much fucking money. He's like, so you're telling me this whole movie is about a slasher? He's like, no, I can't do that. The splatter craze in cinema was in full effect. Obviously, 1974, you got Black Christmas, and then in 1978, you got Halloween, and everybody's trying to do Halloween. But once Friday the 13th hits and it makes money, there's a formula, and everybody's trying to get that formula, just like the 11 herbs and spices and the Colonel's chicken and the secret recipe to Coca-Cola. Everybody wanted a piece of it. Major studios, independent producers. For the next 4 years, slashers reigned supreme in theaters. Savini was in demand. He even did The Prowler, which is insane that he did all these movies in such a short period of time. The Prowler, and this is going to be controversial, I enjoy Friday the 13th as a movie more, but I think The Prowler has superior kills. I think because it was an independent production and not a Paramount feature like Friday the 13th was, it's got some more gruesome stuff in it. Some of those kills in The Prowler are just like unmatched. So if you haven't seen The Prowler, get your ass to putting your eyes on that. It's a good one. Joe Spinell would pitch crazy kills that were so far over the top, Tom would have to talk him down. He was saying, listen, this is too fantastical, Joe. I can't do what you're telling me to do. Spinell even pitched biting off a woman's clitoris, and Savini said, absolutely not. He said, Joe, we're not doing that. There wasn't much preparation, but Savini had become such a master, he would just pull things out of the makeup kit, and he would do the effects on the fly. In Friday the 13th, or in Dawn of the Dead, he's like, oh, I've got this gag, I got to set this up, I got to create a mold. With Maniac, he's just pulling stuff out of the makeup kit and saying, yeah, let's do it, on the fly. He said the most dangerous gag would involve Savini firing a double-barrel shotgun while standing on the hood of a car. It would fire into a dummy of the actor's head. It was filled with apple cores, shrimp dip, cabbage, and of course, good old-fashioned fake blood. They would do this at 3 a.m. in the outskirts of Manhattan. And because they were doing this guerrilla style, it had to be done within 60 seconds because that double-barrel shotgun was loud. There would be only one take with 5 cameras set up to capture this gruesome shotgun sequence. Lustig knew, if I don't get this, it's done. Because once that shotgun goes off, people in the neighborhood are going to know. They're going to know what's up. And in fact, this kill was inspired by the Zodiac Killer. Also, it's in the trailer. This kill partially is in the trailer. And Lustig knew that if I don't have this shot, if I don't have this sequence, I can't sell this movie. Because it's so terrifying. Tom jumps on the hood of the car, standing in for Spinell. Obviously, it's his character. And he fired at the dummy. Boom. They take it. The 5 cameras go. They get the shot. He has an assistant take the shotgun. He puts it in the trunk of the car, and they drive the car off onto Long Island, and they put it in a parking garage. Well, obviously, they had to knock out the windshield. And so this guy is driving this car from the outskirts of Manhattan back to Long Island. There's fake blood, cabbage, shrimp dip, and all this shit in the car. Got no windshield. I mean, this is insane. These are the stories of why stuff like this is why I started this podcast. They tried to clean the car as quickly as they could, and then just sped off into the night. They were like, all right, we're gonna stash it, throw a cover over it in a private garage. They left the car in storage for 2 weeks. When they go to retrieve the car, all the food that was in the head had rotted. And there were bugs because there was no windshield. So all the bugs got in. The car was intolerable. It was trash. They ended up having to just trash the car. So they had to get pickup shots of the blood from the splatter going onto the actress. So they got a second car. They couldn't get the same kind of car because they couldn't afford it. So they got another car. They rented a car and then threw the blood splatter onto the girl who was sitting next to the gentleman who got shot. So what happens is they return the car to the fucking rental place, and some of the fake blood wouldn't come off. When Lustig returns the car, the people who own the fucking car rental place call the cops. And the cops came, and Lustig had to explain we were shooting a horror movie, and it was a bunch of shit. What ends up happening is the cops who came to investigate it, Lustig gave him a couple of $100, and the rest is history. He got away with it. Before body cams, you could you could give the cops a couple of bucks. They leave you alone. One thing that Tom couldn't believe was how Joe Spinell would be in this romantic relationship with leading lady Carolyn Monroe. Obviously, she's the lead maniac. Her and Spinell would work together on the last horror film, a.k.a. Fanatic. They would also work together in the science fiction Star Wars ripoff Star Crash. Listen, I love Star Crash. Star Crash is terrible, but it's a great movie. And Spinell is like on cocaine throughout all of Star Crash. So everybody's at like a 7 and he's at like a 15 and he's just like, oh, the galaxy. And he's just out of his fucking mind. I love it. It's great. Carolyn would always talk about how loving Spinell was. She loved him because of his sense of humor. She said that, listen, I don't care how he looks. I'm always laughing. I'm always happy when I'm with Joe. And that was one special effect that Tom Savini could not believe, that they had this relationship. Believe it or not, at the premiere of Maniac in New York, 2 men in suits with briefcases would come up to approach Tom Savini. They knew exactly who Savini was. And at first, Savini, who at this point he was living in New York, he had just had a nose job. That's why he was there. He was there in New York to get a nose job. Because if you look back, Savini had the big Italian Jewish nose. So they fixed it because he used to snore at night. And once they fixed his nose, that's another story. But that's why he was in New York. It was basically a way for him to live kind of a bohemian lifestyle. He had a girlfriend, whatever. So these 2 guys come up to him, and Savini, of course, he's a wacko. I love Savini. He's the best. He's got a gun on him. He's got a 35, and he's like, who the fuck are these guys? These 2 young guys with suits. He thought it was the IRS. He thought it was the feds. He didn't know who they were. They come up to Tom, and they said, hey, listen, we're editing a movie. We'd really appreciate if you come take a look at what we're doing. The 2 men in suits ended up being Sam Raimi and Robert Tapert, and they were working on a little film called The Evil Dead. And they said, Tom, look in the moviola. Tell me, what do you think of these effect shots? What can we do better? And he was like, nah. He's like, listen, I think you guys got it. It's like, there's nothing that I would do. Because he was looking at all the, they used a lot of claymation and stuff for this, the kills at the end. Tom was just so impressed. And he said, listen, he's like, here's my card. Obviously, you know who I am. He's like, if you want to work together. And then Sam Raimi told him, I don't think we can afford you. And he's like, well, if you can, he's like, one day we'll work together. They eventually would. We need to talk about the Notorious poster. And I'm going to say this. Maniac has one of the greatest movie posters of the 20th century. You can't dispute it. You can't fuck with it. Now, the coked up producers had invented this poster. Let me get into this. Joe Spinell, they basically hired a marketing agency. And the marketing agency does this poster, and I'm going to describe it to you. It's a man in work boots, and he's got blood all over the place. He's holding a severed head and a knife, and it says, "I warned you not to go out tonight." And this poster's infamous. It's infamous. And Spinell would go wherever there was cocaine. That's the truth. So Lustig would ask him, he's like, Spinell would call and be like, "Look, I got to go to the ad agency. I got to make sure this is right." And Lustig's like, "You're just going there to do coke and eat sushi." He's like, no. I got to make sure this poster's right. The poster's got to be right. So the MPAA was in fact so shocked by this poster, they started rating posters after this. They were able to decide with their power whether or not a poster would be seen in theaters or deemed appropriate for the public. You would have to then submit your artwork and your press kit to the MPAA as a part of rating the film. So that's where that's in 1980, that's where this came from. So if you were independently producing a horror movie and it was an unrated film and you weren't going through the proper channels, you could get away with a more bloody and disgusting poster. But if you were going to do something that had a rating, good luck, folks. At a certain point, and this is allegedly, the MPAA would use the poster art for Maniac to explain to filmmakers and studios what not to do, claiming that the art and the marketing for Maniac would kill your movie, and if you do anything like this, we're not going to approve it. The poster was pulled from theaters. Pulled. They fucking recalled it. Billboards were painted over. Children's advocacy groups even forced the key art to be painted over in many major cities. The feminist organizations of the time were not a fan of it either, with the woman's severed head on the poster. The Los Angeles Times refused to carry any of the advertisements because they said the film had no socially redeeming values. And William Lustig was furious. So both producer Bruce Gilbert and director William Friedkin came to the aid of Lustig. Obviously, Friedkin, director of Cruising, previous episode. Sick plug. Brian De Palma also came under fire for his film Dressed to Kill. It's the one with Nancy Allen and Michael Caine, which was censored in some countries and even pulled from theaters in the U.S. Now, it was a neo-noir, Dressed to Kill, was a neo-noir psychologic thriller that had similar issues in July of 1980. A lot of shit happened in 1980. The film revolved around a male doctor that creates an alternate female persona and violently slays his female victims. De Palma went through so much shit with the MPAA and feminist groups and gay rights organizations that De Palma reaches out to Lustig and he says, "Listen, this summer I got fucked. Let me help you. Let me help you because this is going to happen to you." He's like, "If this happened to me and this is a studio film, it's going to happen to you." Dressed to Kill is fantastic. Michael Caine is the killer in the movie. Sorry, spoiler. But he creates this alternate female persona. And if you've ever wanted to see good old Michael Caine in a wig, a terrible, terrible wig, and nylon stockings murdering people, have I got a film for you. Dressed to Kill. Go see it. We need to get into the taglines for Maniac because, man, this is my favorite part of the whole episode. Run from this man. I warned you not to go out tonight. Your terror is unreal because the horror is insane. There is nowhere to run and no time to pray. You can lock your windows and doors, but you can't lock the madman out of your mind. It will tear the life out of you. Those are some good taglines. Listen, me and producer Pete know some shit, but we can't beat that. Obviously, Maniac was going to be censored. We need to get into this because there was no way any of this was going to fly. Since the film was not submitted to the MPAA, the film was released unrated with the designation for adults only. Now, they tried 10 times giving it to the MPAA. Every time, X rating, X rating, X rating. So Lustig's like, fuck, we can't put this movie out. We can't officially put it out as a real movie. Lustig would even go on, when he goes and makes more movies, he knew how to fuck with the MPAA and he would cut things out and he would play games. He would cut a scene out of a movie and then submit it to the MPAA. And then before the movie went out, he'd put the scene back in. He played all kinds of games. William Lustig, if anything you learn from this episode, he was on the most wanted poster at the MPAA. They're like, fuck this guy, fuck his movies. He plays games with us. He'll cut things out, put them back in. He doesn't care. the sanctity of the films, and, it's great. It's good stuff. Now, despite the poster stating no one under the age of 17 will be admitted, a severely edited version of the film did receive an R rating that would later be distributed in March of 1981 in several other states, such as California. The unrated version, where it played, the real unrated version in its original U.S. domestic release, was in New York. The film was refused a classification by the British Board of Film Classification upon its original cinema release, and it was additionally banned for video in 1998, but was later passed at an 18 certificate in 2002 with 58 seconds of cuts, and in 2022, the BBFC passed the film uncut with an 18 certificate. In Australia, the film's promotional campaign featured a censored version of the theatrical poster image, which blacked out the scalp that was held in the killer's hand. So many territories. This movie, the poster was banned and the movie was banned. You couldn't see it for years, almost 30 years you couldn't see it.
We'll be right back with more of The Offering with Jerry Horror.
Now available in paperback, hardcover, and ebook. Icons of Fright. 100 interviews with legendary horror filmmakers. You can now own the greatest collection of horror interviews ever assembled. From the universal monsters to modern-day meta, there's something here for every horror fan to sink their fangs into. Icons of Fright. 100 interviews with legendary horror filmmakers. Available now on Amazon from Harker Press.
The term cult film itself refers to the subculture that surrounds underground films and midnight movies. A cafe is usually a small and informal establishment serving various refreshments in an intimate and inviting setting. What do you get when you combine the two? You get the Cult Cafe, located at the Cinema Arts Center in Huntington, New York. Every Saturday night at 10 p.m., Cult Cafe brings you the best in cult film and beloved classics, curated with care, especially for a devoted fan base of cinephiles. Cult Cafe is where box office bombs are resurrected, and more obscure, transgressive films, shunned by the mainstream, can find a home beautifully projected on a large silver screen. Past movies screened at the Cult Cafe include David Cronenberg's Videodrome, Frank Henenlotter's Basket Case, John Carpenter's The Thing, Sam Raimi's Evil Dead, Victor Bonacor's Thrust, and Richard Kelly's Donnie Darko. Man, the programming there is on point. For tickets and showtimes, head on over to cinemaartscenter.org to find a listing of films, or add Cult Cafe on Facebook to find a series of upcoming events. There really is nothing like seeing an old favorite in a theater full of your fellow movie fans. Hey, maybe I'll even see you there. Cinema will never die at the Cult Cafe. Listeners and fans of The Offering can get their hands on their very own The Offering with Jerry Horror merch, now only at TeePublic. Find your own fresh The Offering with Jerry Horror high-quality merchandise, including t-shirts, hoodies, tank tops, long sleeves, stickers, and mugs. Just like the show, we've got gear that's mostly horror, always genre. The Offering with Jerry Horror TeePublic store has everything you need to represent your favorite podcast. Folks, head on over to teepublic.com right now and pick up your very own Offering tee today. You're listening to The Offering with Jerry Horror. Got a question or a story you want to share with me? It might be featured in a future episode. Email me at jerryhorror@gmail.com or hit me up on Twitter at jerryhorror. I'm also on Instagram. You can find me there at jerryhorror. Rate and review this show on Apple Podcast, and you might find your review in an upcoming episode. And if you haven't already, be sure to subscribe to The Offering. Now back to the show. So let's get to the release because, hey, we got to put this movie out. Hey, we got to make some money here, guys. According to a Variety report, Maniac was scheduled for a midnight screening at the Cannes Film Festival on May 10th in 1980. Joe was in full wheeling and dealing cocaine mode. The Cannes Film Festival audience loved Maniac. They thought it was an absolute triumph. The French adored the film. He was pitching anyone who would listen to see anybody who would listen to anything, anybody who would listen to Joe Spinell is, hey, listen, I got a sequel to Maniac. I've also got another movie about a mafia hitman. And then I got another movie about professional killers from New Jersey called Sleigh Ride. None of those movies got made, but it didn't stop Spinell from pitching the foreign press and everybody who would listen. I got some movies to make. So we should talk about the other movie with Carolyn Monroe called The Last Horror Film, which is also known, aka as Fanatic. They shot a lot of that film in Cannes, and it's basically about a guy who is stalking, a starlet, titular starlet being played by Carolyn Monroe. So guess what? Joe goes to Cannes and he steals a ton of shots. He says, I love the Cannes Film Festival so much, I'm going to film my next movie there. And he just didn't pay anybody and just shot whatever he wanted. But I guess that is that's how they get down in France. Eventually, Maniac had its U.S. premiere in New York City, January 30th of 1981, followed by a Los Angeles premiere on March 6th. Audiences were freaked out by the gruesome nature of the film. Word of mouth would get around, and any horror hound in the vicinity of a movie theater would be lured in from the marketing alone. The word on the street was that Maniac was the real deal. It was a pretty fucked up movie, and you needed to catch it on a Friday night. It fit in perfectly with the sleaze merchants of 42nd Street. And when I tell you, if you go back and look at archival footage, feminists, there was the WOW organization, which was a feminist organization. They picketed the movie. There were children's advocacy groups. They picketed the movie. They said, they would stand out in front of the theater and say, don't come in, don't watch this movie. It's sleaze. These people they're devils. And obviously people like myself, if I was alive then, I would have gone and watched it. I would have been like, hey, fuck that. I got to go see this movie. Because sometimes that's the thing. In the case of Silent Night, Deadly Night, it did keep audiences away. I think a lot of that because of the nature with the whole Santa Claus killer thing. But with this, it was more like, well, all these organizations are telling me not to see this movie. Shit, I should probably go see this movie. You want to see what all the hubbub's about. The critical reception, oh boy. Upon its theatrical release, Maniac received numerous unfavorable reviews, with many critics lambasting the film for its depiction of violence. Gene Siskel did a TV piece for the CBS affiliate in New York City where he strongly criticized the use of TV kiosks that showed graphically violent and gory scenes from the film outside a theater in Times Square. He later picked up the movie as one of his dogs of the week on his show with Roger Ebert, stating that he walked out of the movie after 20 minutes because he felt like all of this ultra-violence could not redeem itself. That was another thing. This was another thing that Bill Lustig did. He would transfer a bunch of the movie, the scenes that he thought were juicy, onto VHS tapes, and they would put TVs in the windows of the movie theater, and it would play all those crazy scenes. So people would pass by, and they'd say, what the fuck is that? Holy shit, we got to go see this. And that's like a genius thing that Lustig did. Nobody ever did this. And my hat's off to him, man, because that's how you want to talk about guerrilla marketing? That's guerrilla marketing. I'm going to show you pieces of this movie. You think it's crazy? Come in the theater. Come see it. That's some real carnival huckster shit, and I dig it. Vincent Canby, he was a big New York Times guy. He was a big film critic in the 70s. He wrote, "Good sense, if not heaven, should protect anyone who thinks he likes horror films from wasting a price of admission on Maniac, a movie that shows how an aging pot-bellied maniac slices up young women of no great intelligence." So basically all the big movie critics in New York, Los Angeles, they thumbed their nose at it. They said, this is crap. Controversy follows Maniac wherever it went, no matter where it was showed. Feminists warned women to boycott the film. The press dragged the film due to its violence against women. And quite a few, and this is the beginning of the multiplexes. A lot of the big multiplex chains like Cinema Odeon, they were like, we're not carrying this. We're not putting this in our theaters. Fuck you. We want nothing to do with Maniac. Now, the theaters that did run it, they said business was quite brisk because other theaters weren't showing it. A couple of the theaters in New York said every screening was packed because there was nowhere else to see it. A lot of the theaters were not carrying this movie. So, This movie did come to home video. Did you know that, Pete? It came to home video. The film was originally released on beta and VHS by Media Home Entertainment in 1981. William Lustig knew the power of home video. You know, a lot of times it took months and months, maybe even years for something like E.T. to come to video. But he was smart. He said, nah, if we can't get it in theaters, let's get it in the video stores. For Media Home Entertainment, Maniac was one of their top sellers for like 4 years straight. It always sold. It would later be released on DVD and VHS in North America by Anchor Bay Entertainment in 2001. And Blue Underground re-released Maniac on Blu-ray on October 26 of 2010. Blue Underground is William Lustig's label. If you want to buy the movie from him right now, they still are doing really great. I just got a fantastic, can I tell you about this? Let me tell you about this. I got a 3-disc set with lenticular art on the front. It has artwork inside. It has a little booklet. It has some of the original key art that they used. It's fantastic. So really, if you want to support the horror community, you want to support Bill Lustig, he's still alive, he's still doing his thing, and you can buy Maniac from him via Blue Underground. So definitely do that. Now, you're probably saying to yourself, Jerry, they made a sequel to this movie? Well, sort of. In 1986, director Buddy Giovannozzo and Joe Spinell put together Mr. Robbie, Maniac Part 2. He shot a 7-minute promotional reel, a little short film. It's about a man who was a children's show host who is also a vigilante seeking revenge against those abusing children. And I'm going to tell you, can I tell you, Producer Pete, this was ahead of its time. This is the kind of movie that like Joaquin Phoenix would win a fucking Oscar for. And in this little short that they shot, you could see he's dressed as a clown, Joe Spinell, and he's smoking a cigarette, and he's getting letters from little kids, and the little kid's he's like, I love your show, Mr. Robbie, but my dad abuses me. So what he would do was Mr. Robbie, as this children's host, would go out as kind of like a death wish kind of thing and go like kill all these child abusers. And there's in the short film, there's a great scene where he meets this guy who's a child abuser, and he works at a restaurant, and he goes and they do a bunch of lines of cocaine, because what else is Spinell going to do? He loves cocaine. He'll say, well, you got to shoot a scene. What's it about? I'm going to do some blow. So he does blow with this guy in the kitchen, and then he takes the guy's face and puts it into a boiling water. They made the short. They tried to secure financing. Ultimately, they were going to go into production. He finally got the money for it. But unfortunately, it was cut short because Joe Spinell's death in 1989. Sadly, Joe Spinell died on January 13th of 1989 from a bleeding complication related to a fall in his apartment. He was a hemophiliac. He cut himself badly after slipping in the shower, and he bled to death. It was reported if he had just called 911 and gone to the hospital, he would have been easily saved. I think the combination of being a hemophiliac and also having a high blood alcohol content, he just bled out. And it's really a shame. There's people that were close to him. So if he would have just went to the hospital, that's all he had to do. Just call an ambulance. He would have been fine. And it's really upsetting because I think Spinell was an incredible actor. He was an incredible talent. And because of dumb shit like this, his life was cut short. So, hey, listen, this is a lesson to all of you listening to the show. If you think you had a stroke, you think you had a heart attack, you think something's not right, go to the hospital, go to the doctor, call the ambulance, get checked out. Especially if you think you're having a heart attack or a stroke, the most dangerous thing you could do is get behind the wheel. That's what happened to Macho Man Randy Savage. Macho Man, he said to his wife, I'm not feeling right. Okay, let's go to the doctor. He got in his Jeep, and then he ended up getting into a car accident, and both of them unfortunately died. But had Macho Man Randy Savage just called an ambulance, he would still be here with us with Joe Spinell and doing good stuff. It's really a shame. Now, you knew anything that does good, right, producer? What do we know? It's going to be a remake. Lustig had always planned a remake. During the 2009 edition of the New York Horror Film Festival, while receiving a Lifetime Achievement Award, Lustig announced that a deal for the remake had been sealed. Now, he announced in 2010 at Sunshine Cinemas in New York City that the remake rights had been acquired by a French production company with director Alexandre Aja attached, who made Crawl, he made The Hills Have Eyes, High Tension. I love Alexandre Aja. I think he's one of the best directors working in horror. He's never made a bad movie, in my opinion. Everything he's done has always been phenomenal. He also did the Piranha remake. I love that. He also stated that he would love to see Tom Sizemore take over the Frank Zito role, as he feels Sizemore is a lot like Spinell, and he recommended it to the French production company. Unfortunately, or fortunately, Elijah Wood was cast as Frank Zito, and they started filming the next year. Aja produced the film. They basically, said, hey, look, we're going to do this, and we're going to make Elijah Wood the killer. They tried to do some different things with this movie. My opinion, I really like the Maniac remake. It's different. Of course, it has its similarities to the original property, but it definitely works for me. Ultimately, the remake would premiere in Los Angeles of December 2011, and it was released in 2012. It did okay. It mostly, it was a hard sell theatrically because of the subject matter. It's based on this cult movie that in some ways barely had this theatrical release, especially nationwide. Yeah, if you're out there, you have access quicker to the Elijah Wood version, because I got to tell you, if you're looking for Maniac on streaming, well, guess what, folks? You ain't going to find it. It ain't on Netflix. It's not on Peacock or Hulu. You got to go to the Blue Underground website, support our buddy William Lustig, and buy yourself a copy of Maniac. What's the conclusion, Uncle Pete? What's the conclusion here? I don't know what the conclusion is. Joe Spinell, acting legend. William Lustig, film legend. These guys did whatever they had to do to get the movie made. And I think that it doesn't matter what year it is. Yes, it is the year of our Lord 2025. But I think the reality of the situation is that if you have a good idea for a movie, no matter how repugnant or repulsive it is, even if it's something along the lines of the aforementioned movie Terrifier, you should do it. Because you know what? No one else is going to do it. All right? No one's going to make it for you. I see a lot of people, they go to the movies, and they say, Jesus Christ, that movie sucked. Oh, you know what they should have done? No, you know what you should do? You should go make a fucking movie. Because a lot of people, and this is, I'm just going to go off now on film criticism in general, especially in the social media age. And the reality of the social media age is there is a lack of education. We're always focusing on the wrong things. Ooh, Tron only made this much money this weekend. Oh, it's going to be a box office bomb. And they talk about all this bullshit. And what they forget is that it's fucking art. Filmmaking is art. Movies are art. And it's important that you do some fucking due diligence and learn about movies. Learn about how a fucking camera works. Learn how lighting works. Learn what people do on the set of a movie. And that's my problem with all of this. Not only does it come off stupid and toothless, it shows that you're fucking uneducated. And I don't know when it became such a big deal to talk about, it's a bomb, it's going direct to digital. Fuck that. Learn about movies. Learn how they're made. It is a craft. It is an art form. And if you're going to go and you're going to shoot your mouth off, maybe you should go fucking make a movie. You know why? Because all of a sudden you're going to realize, oh, this shit ain't easy. No, it's not. You're going to have to learn your lesson. You're going to have to get out there, put the boots on the ground, and decide, hey, I'm going to make a commitment to something I believe in. And chances are you're going to fail. You're going to fail on that first try. Listen, Spielberg didn't make Jaws right out the gate. He made 100 movies in his backyard when he was a kid and figured out how to do that shit. Sam Raimi did the same thing. All these guys we talk about. William Lustig, how did he learn how to make movies? He made fucking porn. And that's how he learned how to make movies. So get out there. You got a good idea? Prove it to me. Prove it to me. Say, Jerry, I got a movie I want to make. I'll watch the fucking movie, even if it's dog shit, because I respect people. It's like Joe Rogan. And I'm going to say, fuck Joe Rogan. Because Joe Rogan, oh, this MMA, this fighter. Joe, shut the fuck up. You're a comedian who is on Fear Factor. Get in the octagon. Show me what you got, Joe. Before you comment on how horrible of a fighter someone is, I want to see you go 3 rounds. And that's the thing. If you're good at talk shit about movies, make sure A, you can back it up with some of your fucking knowledge, and B, that you get out there and you tried to do it. Because what I'm going to tell you is, a lot of these people, they're failed filmmakers. They love to talk shit. Oh, they talk shit about Chris Stuckman. Oh, Chris Stuckman's you know what? Chris Stuckman did it. You didn't. You're living on your mother's couch. You didn't do it. Chris Stuckman put the work in. He learned how to become a filmmaker. He got the financing, and he fucking did it, and you didn't. So don't be mad that you didn't do it and that others did. If you want to be a filmmaker, God damn it, get out there and make your movie. Because I got news for you folks. Nobody's going to do it for you. With that being said, you know what time it is. It's time for my favorite part of the show. Unhinged reviews. Here we go, folks. This review comes from Applesauce. I love that name. Fantastic. This was an Amazon review. 1 out of 5 stars. Title? Too morbid for me. Body of the review. Too morbid for me. Just one gruesome murder scene after another. Motherfucker, what did you think a movie called Maniac was going to be? What did you think it was going to be? Did you think it was going to be a heartfelt story about a basketball coach in a high school? That's Hoosiers, motherfucker. It's called Hoosiers. You can watch it. It's fantastic. Gene Hackman. 10 stars. No notes. Second review comes from Wrathchild. Another good name. 1 out of 5 stars. Title? Big waste of time. I just got done watching it, and it sucked. Don't understand what all the hoopla is about with this movie. But it wasn't graphic, hardly any TNA, waste of time. So you didn't understand what all the hoopla was about. Well, probably because you were born in 2005, and you couldn't figure out that this movie was made in 1980. And I guess, I don't know, your mind is warped by all those Christmas Lifetime movies and all the bullshit you've been watching with Candace Cameron Burke or whatever the fuck her name is. You guys don't know about art. And that's what I was just raving about. You don't know about nothing. And listen, it's your opinion, and you're entitled to that opinion. And I completely understand. But you know what? Maybe you look back through the lens of someone who was watching this movie in 1981 and you say to yourself, oh shit, this was probably very shocking for the time. My grandmother saw the original Frankenstein in theaters, right? The big Universal Frankenstein. Freaked my grandmother out. She wouldn't stop talking about, oh my God, Frankenstein was horrific, and the scene with the little girl and he throws her in the water. And that freaked my grandma out because you have to think, what was life like in that time? They had never seen anything like that. It's the same thing like in the 1980s. A Nightmare on Elm Street freaks people out. Last House on the Left freaked people out. And the reason is because it's time and place. And sometimes you need to put yourself there mentally. But I say a good film, it doesn't matter when it's made. If it's a good film, it lives on forever. So, I don't know. You guys are just, whatever. Man, I pulled all the bad reviews. I'm sorry. This one comes from Marsha Smith. 1 out of 5 stars. Cult horror. I wish it had been mentioned somewhere that this would be considered cult horror and not good cult horror at that. Poor quality and a waste of time. Do you understand, or do you care, that the guy who made this movie made a bunch of porno to make the movie? Do you understand that this is not a studio film? Do you understand that they, again, I explained to you what stealing shots is. This movie was like more of a crime than an actual movie. I can't with these producer Pete, with these fucking people, I can't. You know what? I pulled another bad review. What did I do? What was I thinking? Movie Phantom. That's a pretty good name. 1 out of 5 stars. Title of the review. Like slashers, ? Then stay away. Oh no. Oh no. Did a big tit blonde not get her throat slit in the first 5 minutes? Let me read the review. I'm sorry. The film is so tedious and boring that I nearly fell asleep. Kill scenes look cool, but that's about it, bro. This film shouldn't have... I can't with these fucking people. This film Should have been better, but unfortunately for me, it wasn't. Find another film to watch because you don't want this one. Trust me. All right, yeah, listen, you didn't like the movie. You thought the gore effects were great. Yes, because fucking Tom Savini's the Wizard of Gore. What can I tell you? Shout out to Herschel Gordon Lewis. Sick plug. But with that being said, you got to look at this stuff objectively. And you know what? Maybe you're not cool enough to realize how good Maniac is. Maybe you're too much of a square, man. Maybe you don't get it. Did you watch one battle after another and you called it woke and you said, I just don't get it, man. You don't get it. You don't get it. Well, then maybe it's not for you. Maybe Maniac wasn't made for you. Maybe one battle after another wasn't made for you. Maybe you should just fucking stay home and watch Bluey. Shut the fuck up. How about that? Marcus McCracken is better, objectively better. 2 out of 5 stars. Probably the most boring ass slasher ever made. Title. After all the hype, I said, what the hell? And I bought a copy of this film. Hey, thanks for supporting Bill Lustig. I appreciate that, Marcus. I tried watching it, but turned it off due to how close I was to falling asleep. The only plus is the death scenes. I finally finished it, and it still sucked. Hoping the remake will be better. Now listen, let me tell you something here. I fucking put this movie on the other night in the month of Halloween. It's like the 27th of October. I put Maniac on. I got the Blu-ray. It looks fantastic. It's beautiful. You see all the green, shot in 1.85. It's phenomenal. I was transported back to New York of 1980. And as a New Yorker, that fascinates me. I understand in Sheboygan, Ohio, that you have no fucking point of reference for culture or anything. But I was transported. I saw all the sleaze. I saw the homeless people. I saw the people shooting up on the street. I saw the big adult billboards. I saw what Times Square used to look like. I'm entrenched in the history, in the deep, rich mythology that is New York City in the early 80s. I'm watching this movie. Yo, man, I'm getting stoned with the cat. I'm freaked the fuck out. So thank you, William Lustig, for almost giving me a panic attack on my couch at 2 a.m. You're a genius. But you know what? Art's subjective, man. What can I say, right? Either you get it or you don't. You didn't get it. You didn't get the Blair Witch Project. Maybe it wasn't for you. Maybe, again, you're a square. And Bluey will always be there waiting for you on the television. Regardless of how you feel about the film Maniac, obviously the film we covered today, it really doesn't matter because Lustig's legacy is cemented by the contributions that he has made to cinema. And I think when we get to it at the end of the day, we would all hope to have made such a legendary impact on our chosen field. Whether you're a doctor, whether you're a writer, whether you're a police officer, no matter what you do, you want to make an impact in your community. And Bill did that. Bill made an impact in film history. He is a part of New York film history. And not only that, he's a part of a larger global community. See, that's what happens. When you make true art, it is observed, it is enjoyed, it is despised on a global stage. Everybody knows the Mona Lisa. Everybody knows Starry Night. So when you make a great picture, the world sees it, and they will form an opinion. And sometimes you're not going to like that opinion. But you know what? You go and you paint your pictures. You paint your pictures for you. You paint your pictures to show your kids, to show your wife, to show your neighbors. Sometimes you paint a picture and you throw it away. But what you have to remember is that at the end of the day, I'm saying it again, I hate that I fucking say at the end of the day, but I'm going to say it again. At the end of the day, you're painting those pictures for yourself because you're expressing yourself and you're expressing what you see. And unfortunately, in the late 70s, early 80s, there were a lot of women being abused and a lot of women being swallowed by the sea that was pornography. There was a cycle of violence that still exists today, but not in the widespread way that it did in pornography of the 1970s. And I think ultimately, Lustig saw a lot of that, and he was able to commit that to celluloid. The 1970s, early 80s was a different place, and it's very hard. We talk about time and place movies, and Maniac is very much a product of its time and place. And you can look at it like that. You can look at it as an artifact of a different era. And yeah, of course, you can say, well, it's rough around the edges. It's not a good movie. It's this, it's that. But it is. It is, because it is a document of what happened and what was going on. You know, Marvin Gaye said, what's going on? Well, if you wanted to know what was going on with the Sleaze merchants of New York City in 1980, Maniac was what was going on. And unfortunately, some things haven't changed. Some things have, some for the better. But you really have to see this as an aggressive piece of art that was simply showing you. So, if you've made it this far into the episode, and you're a true fan of The Offering, I want you to go into the YouTube, into the Instagram, into all the social media accounts and say, I warned you not to go out tonight. That's right. You're going to put this in the comments, say, I warned you not to go out tonight. Because that is the brilliant tagline of the film known as Maniac. And what did we talk about in the beginning of the episode? New Fear City. Don't go out tonight. Lock your doors. Be afraid. Be very afraid. And I think that Maniac was warning us that there are scary people out there, and there are people who are not so nice, and they might just scalp your wig off if you get a little too intimate with them. I don't know. You wanted sleaze. You wanted gore. You got it. You wanted titillation. You got it. You bought the ticket, you took the ride. Maybe it didn't take you where you wanted to go, but it for sure was an adventure, and it was a journey. And I think with any good film, that's all we can hope for, right? That we buy the ticket, we watch the movie, and it takes us to another place. And sometimes that's not a place we want to go to. Oftentimes, I'll avoid a movie if I feel that it's going to make me uncomfortable. I'll avoid a film if I think it's going to challenge me. And that's a problem that occurred. And it's a problem that Hollywood created. Marvel kind of created this. We know what's going to happen. We know there's going to be a happy ending. We're going to make some jokey jokes, and it's fine. Films that were truly transgressive, like films like Cruisin', films like Taxi Driver, The Exorcist, they challenged us. They challenged us to our very core to look in the mirror, and they challenged our beliefs. And they said, look at this. What do you think? And of course, you're going to have an opinion, whether it's positive or negative. But they took you to another place, emotionally, mentally, maybe even spiritually. I've said sometimes when you see a really good movie in theaters, it seems like an awakening. It seems like, oh my God, this had been in front of me the whole time, but I didn't see it. I didn't see how great this actor could be, how great the score, the cinematography, how it could be just so lovely and absolutely make my day and inspire me to be a better person or to make art. And I think that is the true purpose of film. It is a mirror that we hold up to the audience, and the audience must gaze into that mirror and say, what do you see? Do you see your hopes? Do you see your dreams? Do you see your aspirations? Do you see sleaze? Do you see murder? Do you see rape? What do you see? Because film is simply that, a reflection of who we are. And that is what we're all looking for in this journey called life. We're looking to find ourselves. And there's no better place than to go to that darkened theater and see that magic up on the screen. Sit there right with Nicole Kidman and she'll tell you, this is where dreams are created. This is where the magic happens. And she's not wrong, folks. Might just be an ad campaign, but it's something that I truly believe. And I think sometimes the best parts of ourselves that we're looking for, we can find on that silver screen. I'm Jerry Horror. This has been The Offering. Mostly horror, always genre. You've been listening to The Offering with Jerry Horror. Produced by Pete Bune. If you have a question or story you want to share with me, we'd love to hear from you. You can email me at theofferingwithjerryhora@gmail.com. Or hit us up on Twitter at theofferingwjh. Or hit me up on the Instagram at Jerry Hora. You get the picture? Subscribe to Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you find your favorite podcast. Join us next time for another offering.
Chasing worries like a Maya genre twist that shake your core. Every episode, we craving more. Mostly horror, always genre.
This has been a Sick Boy Wolfgang production. Thank you for listening.